Hey guys, this is Kai here from Pure Investments, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin and its current market state. As a lot of you may know, over the past, I don't know, month or so, we've been in a bit of a bear market, and I just kind of want to go over some of the stuff that's happened in the last week that I think will reverse the market. We're going to start with the Senate hearing. The United States Senate met this past week to discuss Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, and it was actually rather impressive. I didn't expect them to be as knowledgeable on the subjects as they were. I kind of expected it to be more bearish and, more heavily debated on both sides, but instead what we saw was Republicans and Democrats alike actually really accepting of the technology and wanting to see where it goes. So I'm going to play a few clips here to start. This clip is Christopher Giancarlo. He is the head of the CFTC, and in this point he's kind of discussing the comparison of crypto's market cap to a regular company.
Inform the agency about virtual currencies and other financial technology. Next is to put things in perspective. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the total value of all outstanding Bitcoin is about $113 billion. We have a slightly different figure than you have, Chairman, but close. But the point is that that's less than the market cap of one large publicly traded company, McDonald's. The total value...
So as you can see there, he's kind of comparing it to McDonald's and saying, is Bitcoin really that insanely valued? Because that's the thing we always hear is, oh man, Bitcoin's worth, $17,000, $20,000 a Bitcoin, and that's insane. Why is it worth so much? But in general, it should be looked at as a market cap basis. And on a market cap basis, Bitcoin and crypto in general doesn't actually have that insane of an evaluation. It's very comparable actually to a regular company. Crypto as a whole is worth less than half of Apple's market cap right now, for example. So it's something to take into account. And here again, we'll see Mr. Giancarlo discuss the intrinsic value of Bitcoin again.
I don't know where the natural equilibrium point is in this, but I will tell you there are some economists who posit that there is a relationship between Bitcoin value and the difficulty or the cost of mining which is a process of electronically producing these, and that there are some charts I've seen that have plotted that correlation that seem to be readily correlated until last summer when the price broke free of that correlation, and that it came back into correlation late at the end of the year last year. Now,
so again, he's basically correlating the intrinsic value, which is something a lot of people have trouble with Bitcoin, because it's not like gold where there's a value, but he's saying that essentially the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is linked to its mining capability, right? So the cost of mining is the bottom. If Bitcoin has to be at $2,000 for Bitcoin mining to be valuable, that is the base level of the intrinsic value. And that's kind of what he's equating here, is as the cost of mining goes up, Bitcoin should follow, because it can't actually fall below the mining cost in theory. This next clip is, I believe, Senator Mark Warner, and he is discussing his idea of what Bitcoin could become, and it was probably the most bullish statement we saw the entire hearing, and it was really just amazing to hear, so I wanted to play it.
I agree with my friend from Louisiana. But I think we may be on top of something that is transformational, and I don't think you can separate the underlying distributed ledger or blockchain from some of these crypto assets. And if we had the same rate of increase that the next 2 years that we've had the last couple of years, we're talking now a couple $100 billion, we'd be at north of $20 trillion caught up in this area by 2020. And I think I remember back, I was lucky enough to get in the cell phone business back in the early 80s, and everybody thought it was going to be a small business, and they were wrong, and I got rich. I think we're looking at the same kind of transformation about to take place, and we are going to have to wrap our arms around it.
So, as you can see there, it's a pretty bullish statement. Basically, to break it down, he says that he could see Bitcoin and crypto as a whole becoming a $20 trillion marketplace in the next 2 years. And he equates it similar to the telecom and wireless industry back in the mid to late 90s, where you saw cell phones and everything like that explode. It's amazing to me still that these senators really are as bullish and excited and thrilled with how this technology could be applied to things. And I think this was a video that was going around a lot. You can actually see it down here. This is the other clip, but a lot of people considered it the most important part of the video, or of the hearing rather. Senator Cotton asks Mr. Giancarlo of the CFTC what his opinion is on the value and application of crypto as a whole. And Giancarlo's answer is actually just so truthful. It was kind of unexpected. He really breaks it down well, and I'm going to play that clip.
It's important to remember that if there were no Bitcoin, there would be no distributed ledger technology. It grew out of that technology initiative. And the potential applications, and by the way, I'm no pie-in-the-sky dreamer. I just report what I read, but the applications range from enormous potential in financial services industry and the banking industry, but right down to the way charity dollars are spent, the way perhaps refugees are accounted for across the globe. There was an article just this morning about the use of distributed ledger technology for 2.5 billion people around the world who don't have access to banking services. One of the areas that, in our own area of agriculture futures, 66 million tons of American soybeans were just handled through a blockchain transaction by the Dreyfus Company for sale to China. So Bitcoin is now being used. It's used in our American transportation and logistics system. And most importantly, the potential of distributed ledger technology for regulators to be able to do really close market surveillance. And if it had been available in 2008, if we had been able to see the counterparty credit exposure of one bank to another bank in real time with precision, that would have enabled much more precise policy choices that had to be made in a rush without good data. So I think distributed ledger technology has got an enormous potential. Now, how...
So I don't know if you caught that at the end because he was kind of vague on it, but basically what he explains is, had distributed ledger technology existed back in 2008, which is the housing crisis, that's not, he doesn't mention it, but that's what he's talking about, you would have been able to see the advanced metrics that distributed ledger and crypto provide and possibly actually stem how bad the housing crisis ended up being, because you would have been able to see it coming and predicted it sooner and actually been able to regulate around that and fix the problem before it became an issue that it did. So that was the primary takeaways from the Senate hearing. Just to kind of bullet point it a little bit, the primary overtone is that they don't feel the need right now to regulate crypto as a whole. Right now, they really want to try and focus on stemming from fraud and manipulation of things like pumping groups and shady ICOs that don't really have, a working product or a proper white paper and stuff of that nature. And that's really where their primary focus is right now. And honestly, I think that's better for the community in general, because there are people getting scammed on ICOs and pump groups and all sorts of stuff like that. And that is the type of stuff that we want to see go away naturally or through regulation. But the overlying statement was that they don't see the need to actually regulate the market at all. Right now, they see it as a small-scale market that needs time to develop and grow, and it needs to be allowed to flourish on its own before we can actually worry about coming in with regulations and possibly stomping out progress of the technology, which is what they don't want to do. Moving on, this actually got posted 2 days ago, but Arizona actually approved in their Senate a bill that would allow people to pay state taxes in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies possibly. And you can see this little line here at the end, but it's basically the same thing as what we heard from the Senate hearing this past week, which is that people in the government seem to really actually notice the use that blockchain and digital currency technology could be in the future. And I think all of this is partly coupled with how we've seen the market kind of turn recently, because during this meeting we were at, I think it was around $6,500. Now we're back up around $8,400, and now I'm going to break into a little bit of TA to finish this off. So we can see right now that Bitcoin kind of has been pressing along this downward slope here, right? This descending trend line. If I can just get my chart to behave. And we've tried to break through it a few times and just consistently are failing. We tried to break through it on Friday night. We got very, very close. Failed again and kind of flagged back down. As you can see though on the 4-hour super trend, it actually bounced off of this and is keeping that buy signal, which is kind of a big deal actually. If you notice, the last time super trend was a buy was all the way back on basically New Year's is when it triggered the buy, and we ran from about 14,000 up to 17,000, and that was that little bull trap we had before the real regression set in. And that's kind of where we're at right now. One thing I did want to show though is the Ichimoku cloud. I'm going to close these out just because they're not very relevant. So the cloud right now has actually been really predictive for Bitcoin. If you look, you can see, we failed to break into the cloud here, we failed here, we failed here and here, and it's kind of been a slow failure on every attempt to break into the cloud since that 17,000 run. And that's kind of the trend we're seeing, is that 17,000 run was the last real bullish period, and right now all the indicators are trying to slowly turn into a bullish nature. I believe right now this 4-hour candle is actually about to close inside the cloud, which is great. We have yet to actually see that happen. Hopefully it continues. We've seen a couple small failures like this one back on the 24th where we had a candle close inside the cloud, and then that red candle kind of came back down on it. But more importantly perhaps would be the daily chart, which, as you'll see here, we've been trying to break over this 12 EMA for it seems like ever. If I delete these lines just to make it a little bit clearer, so the 12 EMA has been the primary resistance point. So if you look at Bitcoin, you can see this 12 EMA and the resistance points here, 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 and so on and so forth, and every single time we smash against it and we fail to break through it. So right now that resistance point is sitting at around $8,700 or so on the daily chart, and this is going to be the crucial point to break. We need to close a candle over this point to actually see a flip to a bullish environment, as opposed to what we saw the past few times where we broke into it and kind of just flagged back down and failed to close that candle in the daily chart. As you could see, with this day where we had a very nasty red doji at the top of these nice few green days. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You can see back on this period over here, we actually had very similar behavior where we had these weird long neck dojis in the middle of a small uptrend, and then ended up having that explosion that we had from 9,000 all the way up to 20,000 back at the end of December. So it's not the end of the world. It really just shows that there's some indecision in the marketplace. And right now this daily candle is in a really nice hammer, which shows that there's more buying pressure than selling pressure at the moment. People are buying the dip. Last night when we dipped to around $7,800, people bought it up. They bought it up hard, and now we're back up near 8,400. So we're right on that precipice of possibly breaking out of this bearish market and turning into a bull market. But it remains to be seen. Hopefully within the next day or two we can provide a better update, and hopefully at that point it's that we've broken up. If I were to make a gut call right now, I think we're going to break out of it within this week. It's just shown to be a little bit different than these past little bull traps that we've had over the past few weeks. Primarily just the length of it has been better, and it's been in a constant upswing. You can see we've had these little bull traps here where it popped up and immediately crashed back down, and then kind of flagged sideways before crashing harder. And similar over here, popped up, immediately crashed back down, and they only lasted for like 24 to 48 hours. This little bull trend we've been on has been in effect since the 6th, which I believe is Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. So it's lasted a lot longer. We're almost a full week through this little trend we've started here. And I think we're going to see that continue. Right now, the primary mark to break, though, is still this 9,300 mark that you can kind of see here. Until we're able to break over this mark, I don't really trust the current trend that we're seeing. But hopefully we can. I think we will. Every indication right now is telling me that we're gonna. I don't believe we'll see below 6,000 again. There is a possibility that we could fall back down to 6,000 and retest that and double bottom there, which is absolutely possible. It's pretty good support from back around this time and this time right here, back in early November, late October. But I don't think we're gonna. I believe we're forming support right now around 7,800. Hopefully today we can break over 9,000 and test this 9,300 marker, and we'll see where we go from there. But for now, that's basically all I've got. Overall, everyone in the government seems to be very bullish on Bitcoin. They're optimistic, but bullish in general. They love the technology. They'd like to see where it can go from here, and that is something that we really haven't heard or seen of any government until this point. So that's a big deal. This whole past month we've been dealing with a lot of FUD from China and Korea and even America, and a lot of it's been proven false. There was an article that came out that said that China had sent an email that they were going to be banning cryptocurrencies, and it turned out that China's ministry was actually hacked and the email was false and didn't actually happen from their people. It was a hack, and somebody sent that email out, and that was what caused the primary crash down here from like the 9,000 to 6,000 mark. So I think we're getting out of that FUD sector, and I think we're going to break up. But obviously, until we break this 9,300, I'm not certain. And I think that anybody saying they're certain is not really correct. There's no way to be certain right now. We're kind of in a limbo period. But until the next time, I'll hopefully update this in a few days. This is where we kind of stand right now. We're kind of in limbo, hoping to break 9,300. If we fall below 7,800, though, we're probably going to retest the 6,000 area for support. But that's about it. That's all I have for you guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.